This squad of custom posed Plaguebearers has been done for about a year now, but I didn't record any of the process. It was more of an experiment because I had never done any reposing this extensive before, especially on an entire unit of miniatures. It could have ended up being a janky mess, but I think they turned out alright, so let's take a closer look at each Plaguebearer. This was my first attempt. I didn't want to start hacking and gluing with reckless abandon right out the gate, so this is a more subtle reposing. Mostly the arms and wrists so he could study the blade, and I cut the left foot at the ankle and glued it at a more obtuse angle to make the implied motion follow in the direction the head is looking, as opposed to being perpendicular to the chest. This next guy I imagine is just losing his damn mind, howling at the moon, pumping his arms back and forth like Rusev used to do. To get him looking like Fat Joe in 04, I made cuts where the upper thigh area attaches to the torso, starting from the front and not cutting all the way through. Just enough so I can bend both legs back at the same time to make sure that the final stance will be balanced. Then I use sprue goo and plastic glue to set the legs back in place. I use sprue goo and plastic glue exclusively on all these Plaguebearers, by the way. Sprue goo is just pieces of plastic sprue dissolved in plastic glue. I think I also cut and glued the feet at the ankles so that they would lay flat on the base. The arms were cut and rotated to have a more open pose. I wanted the left arm to be more curled, so I knew I would need to remove some material to make the arm look bent naturally. I think it's best to leave the bicep alone and shave plastic from the forearm, using the elbow as the natural pivot point. Then if it doesn't look beefy enough, I can just apply a bit of sprue goo to the sides of the forearm to get some of that mass back. For this Plaguebearer, I wanted more of a lunging stance, so again I made the cuts where the legs meet the torso and twisted the legs into the stance I wanted. Well, at least where I wanted the thighs to be positioned. From there I made cuts in the crook of the knee, not cutting all the way through the kneecap, and bending the lower legs into place. Removing plastic from either side of the kneecap equally, and then using sprue goo to fill any odd gap created from the repose. And then I brushed over it with some plastic glue to blend it all in. Having footage of this process would obviously be better, but hopefully I'm describing it well enough for you to kind of understand what I mean. I also rotate the feet at the ankle. The arms got straightened and the hands got rotated. I wanted to take the lunging pose a step further by having a Plaguebearer kneeling. It's pretty much the same process. The plague sword and its pommel had to be removed carefully from the hand and then flipped so the sword would point downward into the ground. I used a head from the Plague Drone kit for this one because I thought it looked more regal as he kneels in the presence of the leader of the squad. For the flag bearer, I used the flag from the Ogor Maw tribes, I believe, and glued a bell to either side. This one used another head from the Plague Drone kit. Nothing really that special about the pose for this one. I very strongly dislike the way I painted the flag, so let me know in the comments if you'd like a video of me attempting to freehand paint something better onto the flag. To have the right arm cross the body of this Plaguebearer, I separated the arm into 4 sections. The shoulder, bicep/tricep, forearm with elbow, and the hand. I just rotated these 4 pieces until I got the arm in the position I wanted. Plastic glue and sprue goo really come in handy here, as the pieces will be somewhat stuck together but still pliable enough to make minor adjustments. And I think this is the final Plague Drone kit head that I used. I wanted a Horticulus Slimux without actually buying one, so I did my best to replicate it with a Plaguebearer body. The toughest part was getting the neck to bend sideways, which I tried cutting it from the shoulders, the neck that is, and then cutting a wedge from one side of what I guess would be the traps, and then gluing that piece onto the other side of the neck. And then I made sure that the spine bumps on the back connected when the neck and body were reattached. Some very minor green stuff work would have made the spine have a more natural curve, but I didn't do that for some reason. The head, I think, is from the Putrid Blight Kings kit. I did end up just getting the Plaguebearer from the Horticulus Slimux kit for a decent price, and here's a look at them side by side. How do you think I did? Speaking of the Putrid Blight Kings kit, I wanted to see if I could graft a Blight King's torso onto a Plaguebearer body. The short answer is yes, but it is not easy. I had to cut the belly into 3 different panels to wrap around the torso, and then filled the gaps in the back with bits of sprue and sprue goo. This one is holding a bouquet of disembodied heads, so I slightly reposed a Nurgling's arms so it could be holding up 2 heads of its own. I most likely won't use a sloppity Bilepiper as part of my army, so I used that model to have a really cool musician for my unit of Plaguebearers. I swapped the Shaker deal in his right hand for a Plague Sword. I made a drummer Nurgling by taking the drummer parts from some Chaos Age of Sigmar model and glued them onto a Nurgling. And with the addition of drums to the bagpipes, why not have the Nurgling singer as well? And for the Plague Ridden, which is like the leader of the squad, I wanted him to look like he just won King of the Ring in like 89. I didn't like the asymmetrical look on the special head in the Plaguebearer kit, so I painstakingly glued more horns in place to form a crown. And since he has a crown, why not a cape as well? I had to cut a Slaves to Darkness model's cape in half so it would sit properly over the shoulders, and then I slathered the gap between the 2 pieces with sprue goo. You wouldn't even know if I didn't tell you, right? You can also see a bit of a cut line in the fur that I kind of haphazardly sculpted over when the sprue goo was mostly dry. I reposed the legs as well, so he'd be shifting his weight to one side like he was about to swing his sword. I had a lot of fun pushing my limits with these models, and believe it or not, I came up with 10 more poses that I'd like to try, so I may actually fully record that process for a video, but it won't be anytime soon because I have way too many projects started at the moment that I need to finish first. Sorry. Hopefully I was descriptive enough in this video to at least get you started in the right direction when it comes to reposing Plaguebearer minis, or at least like looking at the models. And if you did, chop the soul out of the like button. And if you didn't, keep it to yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.